Last year I made a little basket and filled it with foliage and nuts and pine cones to decorate the hearth. This year we're going to make something different. We're going to make a little tree thing to go here. Other parts of the room are already decorated. We've got Jenny's hand-stitched garland up there for the Christmas cards. We've got the tree up and lit, but we just need something to make the hearth look a little bit more festive when the fire's not lit. So we've got these twigs that we pruned off of something in the garden, and I've just brought them inside for a few days to dry out. They're rather nice and quite symmetrically branched. I'm just going to go and take them into the lounge and offer them up in there and see what they look like in situ. Right. What do you reckon, Jenny? Is that too big?
Right, let's put it in the pot and see. That's not too bad actually. Just
Yeah, I mean it's going to need a little bit of trimming to even it out.
yeah,
but...
yeah.
Right. Yeah, I think something like that.
Yeah.
So we've got this nice pot in rather festive colours. We're going to go for a red and white and perhaps gold theme. So this pot's just perfectly in keeping. And of course, when we want to light the fire, we can just pick it up and move it. So we got these pebbles. These were sold as candy fusion pebbles. Looks like kind of pink and grey quartzite, but they're quite messy. So I'm going to give them a wash. I think these are probably quarried and then roughly tumbled to take their sharp edges off. And so there's a lot of silt and muck on them. They'll need a really good wash. I mean, if you were going to use them in the context they're meant to be used, the rain would do that for you. But we're using these indoors. That's those given a nice rinse, and I imagine that water looks a little bit like milk under there now. So I'm going to let those dry while we carry on with the other bits. Back out here in the utility room, I'm just going to trim these. Just got secateurs. I'm going to prune off anything that's a bit awkward here. There's a great long leggy bit there, for example. That's fairly symmetrical now, but without ruining it completely. Do you know what? If I try to go for too much pruning, I will ruin it. So what I'm going to do now is just turn it over. This is the back now, and just make a couple of decisions about taking a couple of bits off the back. That one. Right, now stop quick before it gets ridiculous. All right, so I've got this nicely lined with newspaper. This is the top of the freezer. I've got some, well, this is actually undercoat, but it's white paint. It'll do. A stick, and then, and this is possibly the tricky part, I'm just going to paint these twigs. Before I make a mess of this one, I think I'm just going to go and put on an old shirt. Right, that's better. Old shirt. I don't need to worry quite so much about paint splashes then. And yeah, so I'm just going to try and get a bit of paint on every little twig. Spraying probably would be easier, but I'm using up paint that we've got left over from decorating. This is just household undercoat. You know, it really wouldn't matter if this was just emulsion paint, household emulsion, decorator's emulsion, something like that. It doesn't even really need an undercoat or primer or anything, because it's not going to get any wear. It's only got to last until 12th night. So, you know, I might embrace the slightly incomplete frosting of these twigs. I think I'll just try and get something, a little bit of white on all of them. But I'm not going to try to go for pure white, because I think we'll see less of the texture of the wood if we do that. So I'm going to make it perhaps look a little bit like there's been a really hard frost. Yeah, I think actually I don't want it any more frosted than that. I think that's quite nice. I'll just have another scout around, just make sure there's no big bare patches. Good. Yeah, I like that. That was the small one. Second verse, same as the first. Okay, I'm not just saying this, I think that actually looks better and more wintry when it's a little bit unevenly coated like that. I'm really happy with how that turned out. The following day then, these are now completely dry. I think we can start putting this together now. So, that's my sticks, and they're going to go in there, something like that. But we'll start getting some of these stones in here, sticks and stones. So these aren't completely dry, but it won't matter too much. I'm just going to put these carefully in here, can't just pour them in. Okay. So something like that. I need to try to hold this close while I fill in around the bits. I think I got the quantity just about right. How's that looking on camera? Yeah. So I just washed a few more. Actually, that one looks a bit silly on there. Very big one. So I'm just going to pack a few more around the top here so it's above the rim of the pot. Okay, I think that's probably about right. Now it's time to hang some things on the branches. I've got this red and white paper string, and I have an idea that just threading this back and forth through the branches to make not exactly garlands, but just a drape over the tree might look nice. We'll have a look. Yeah, it's a bit awkward to work with the full length of this string, but let's see what we can do. Yeah, it's a fairly subtle effect, but I quite like that. So I've also got this nice red ribbon, and I think I'll just cut some pieces of this and tie some bows on the tree as well. It might be easier to tie these bows and then wire them on or something, but let's just see what we can do with this. Yeah, I think we can do a few of those. Right, that's that so far. And then I've got some little sprigs of artificial berries. I'm not sure, yeah, I think they'll be alright actually. So I think we might just twist these into place in a couple of spots. Okay, and same with these. This little sprig can go up here. Okay, and then a little cowbell in red and white. A little tin work star. Perhaps I'll put the star somewhere near the top here, since that's a traditional thing to have near the top of a Christmas tree. A little mushroom. A tiny piece of wood with a scene with a robin and some berries. A gingerbread person. Lots of little shiny baubles in silver and red and gold. And then we've got some little toys, some little wooden toys. Angels and elves and various little miniature folk art type decorations. It's starting to fill out, looking not too bad. And I'm conscious that that doesn't look all that much on video just because of the way the camera's not picking things up. We've come to the town of Wareham in Dorset. We're going to do a bit of festive mooching in the charity shops and look at the shop windows, see if we can pick up some small decorations for the Christmas tree, have a bit of lunch, maybe something seasonal, and then we're going to head home for a bit of Christmas crafts and seasonal food and drink. Well, I crossed the road to have a look at this festive display of Christmas fare, partridges and stuffing and sausages, but actually across the road there's an old-fashioned sweet shop. I'm just going to head back over there and have a look at the window all painted and baubles and a garland. Nice. A pub across the road that used to be the Red Lion but is the Ho Ho Hotel. A whole window full of pies. How about that? This is my kind of shop. Wildmar Hospice Care. I assume all of these things in the window are actually for sale if you wanted them. Right, we're going to have a look inside the charity shops and see if we can find some things. Furnishing shop's got huge baubles and some presents and a painted twig tree with white and silver baubles. Over there a pet shop with lots of lights in the window. So the Bear Hotel, apparently they do allow humans in as well. Lovely garland around the door here. Very traditional, holly, ivy, bay leaves, conifers. I like that. The garlands on the outside of buildings seems to be a bit of a theme here actually, which is really nice. I actually think that's... these are artificial garlands, but they look nice on the outside. Well, I might have been wrong about the Ho Ho Hotel. Maybe it's the Ed Lion Tea. Anglebury House Restaurant and Hotel. Lovely themed fluffy bears and reindeer and Santa, all nice and themed in white and flocked. And the other window here, the theme is beige, or gold and cream. I like that. Gift shop here, looking very festive in the window. Lots of little berries and twigs and hanging things. I do like that china. So we went in here for lunch, the Salt Pig. It's a cafe and butcher and bakery and deli, and I can absolutely thoroughly recommend it. Okay, these bells then, which I got in a charity shop for £2.50. These are going to go on my little hearth decoration. The only thing I don't think this red cord quite fits the slightly more natural look of most of the things I've got on there. So I'm going to untie this if I can. If not, I may have to cut it, but it'd be a shame if I have to cut. Yeah, I'm just going to untie that because we might save that cord. I'll put it in my crafting box. Might use that for something else. And I think we'll just put a piece of this stuff on there instead. Try and get that knot as close as possible to the end of the strands. Make sure we've got them all in there. There we go. Something like that. Let's see what that looks like hung on the tree. We are kind of slightly running out of space. But I'm sure I'll find some little places for extra bits and pieces. It's good. Right. And the best part, I haven't shown you the best part, is we'd light the fire daily at this point in the afternoon. So every time we light the fire, I have to move this decoration out the way. And now moving this decoration is going to make me feel festive because and then moving it back in the morning. It's a little bit of festive sound every day, makes me feel a bit more Christmassy. Happy with that. The other fun thing is that my little calamansi, my calamondin orange, has got a few ripe fruits on it. I had an idea. We're just going to pick the nicest looking one of these, which I think is that one there. And I'm going to make a tiny pomander. So here's the plan for this. Just going to stud this with cloves and then make it hang up. So it's a little decoration. The cloves will wick the moisture out of the little orange and cause it to dry out and also make it nice and fragrant. So I'm going to use some of this stretchy cord that we took off those bells. Let's see if I can make a thing that goes around that. How are we going to do that? It's a little bit fiddly for fingers of my size. Okay, so there's that bit like that. And this is going to go under there. Through there. And then back around the bottom. And then under again. Just lift that up while we thread that through. Okay, and then I'll just, wow, it's ever so fiddly, but hopefully the result will be worth it. So that's going to hang up like that. So that we're just going to tie in a little knot on the bottom like that, and then I'll trim up those ends. You can't help with this. You can't help. I appreciate the offer. Okay, so we'll just get that proportioned like that. Okay, now I've got some cloves. So I'll put 2 cloves there like that. So now we just stick the cloves into the orange. I'm going to go all the way around the middle first. So with a larger orange, with a full-size orange, you'd have to dry it carefully to make sure that it doesn't go mouldy. But with a tiny little calamondin or a calamansi like this, it's not going to need very much proper drying out. These cloves will wick out the orange juice because they're absorbent, so these will act as little wicks. The orange juice will come out and evaporate, and then it'll dry out and it will shrink and it will turn dark as well, probably. Eva, would you mind? It's carpet swimming. Okay, so that's that at the moment. And then I think we'll have an extra one in the top of each of these places here. And the same at the bottom. Just 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. Tiny orange pomander. And it does smell very festive. Spices and citrus, you know, is a really festive thing. So despite me earlier saying I didn't really want this red cord on the little hearth ornament tree, I think it'll work okay with this thing. So I can tie a knot in the end there, pass both those ends through and grab them, and then pull that nice and tight. Okay, so we're just hanging that so that it's got some air circulating around it will help it to dry out. So that, I think, can go front and centre, just right there. This gives me another idea for what we could do with these small oranges. I've only got a few of them, but they've got an intense flavour, and we're going to do something so we can taste them as well. This evening, for a little bit of a festive drink, I'm going to open a bottle of my homemade cider. This is the jam finish cider. I will taste a bit straight as it comes, but we're going to make some mulled cider, so warm it up with some spices and flavourings. About a teaspoonful of black treacle, a little bit of ginger. I'll just cut this into really thin slices. Lemon zest. Cinnamon sticks. And a couple of cloves. And a bit of brown sugar. I'm just going to add a bit of boiling water to that. And just dissolve that treacle and sugar. I'm just going to leave that to infuse for the afternoon. We're just going to pop over and see some friends. And then this evening when I come back, I'm going to use that syrup with the cider to make some mulled cider. Should be good. Time will tell. Time will tell. I'm just, you know what? I know this is not a very conventional thing to put in a mulled cider, but just for a little flavour of 2025, a little bit of my Spanish thyme. I think that'll work. Absolute afterthought here. I'm just going to chop up some sultanas and put them in that syrup as well, so that those can soak, and we'll get some of that vine fruit flavour as well. Right, it is time to give this cider a taste. So this is my jam finish cider. This is the one where when I was bottling my just apple cider, I added into this one a syrup made from boiled blackberries, elderberries, damsons and apple skins. I didn't add any more sugar, but there will have been sugar in that fruit concoction. Let's see if we've got any carbonation. That's a hopeful sound. I'll pour myself a pint of this. Nice little fizz going on there. I'm also going to pour the rest of the bottle into here, so we can have a couple of little glasses of mulled cider later on. That's my now mulled cider. That's got all of those spices and things in it. One more thing to add in there. Okay, jam finished cider. It smells a lot more cidery than it did when I first bottled it. It smells, I don't know quite how to describe it. I think it's got a bit more character to it. It was a problem when we bottled it, so perhaps it isn't now. That's not bad. It's still a very dry cider. I mean, I think essentially we could have added a whole lot of sugar, and this would have fermented a lot further and become more alcoholic. So the yeast is going to essentially ferment 100% of the sugar, and it's including the sugar that was in those fruits. That's what's caused the carbonation. That's quite good now, though. Very gentle carbonation. All of those extra flavours from the berries, the apple skins, and the damson skins. Really quite a nice, well-rounded flavour. Yeah, I like that. There is one more thing. to go into this mulled cider, which is one of my little calamansi oranges. I mean, I'm calling these oranges, but I think people tend to think of them as more like limes, because they're often eaten when they're green rather than orange like this. There is a seed in there which we'll get rid of. I mean, tempted to grow that. Perhaps I should. Perhaps I'll save a seed from one of the others and grow it. Anyway, that can go in there as well now. I won't heat that up just yet though, because Jenny's out for a couple of hours just helping a friend. When she comes back, we'll have some festive nibbles and some mulled cider. Meanwhile, I'm off to the fireside to sit with this and perhaps that book about driving routes in Dorset, to have a little leaf through that. Dorset is a county of surprising variety of scene. All across the county, from the Wiltshire Downs to the rugged hills of the Devon border, an 800 to 900 foot ridge of open downland drops northward to the pastoral Blackmore Vale of the River Stour, and slopes southward to a lowland of little river valleys and great stretches of primitive heath, the country of Thomas Hardy's celebrated Wessex novels. Southward still, the Dorset coast has even more diversity, with long sandy beaches rising to the sheer cliffs of the Purbeck and Portland Stone districts, chalk cliffs and the unique pebble ridge of the Chesil Bank, and all manner of secluded coves and inlets, from the immense expanse of creek and marsh around Poole Harbour to the sounds of Weymouth Bay, and from the rock mass of the Isle of Portland to many-coloured cliffs about Charmouth and Lyme Regis. Mainly agricultural for many centuries, Dorset has preserved abundant evidence of its history and prehistory, fossil remains in the ancient rocks of the coast, and barrows and hill forts galore on the chalk downs. Historic towns from Roman, Saxon, Norman and medieval times still flourishing as centres for the life of peaceful countrysides, fine manners and country houses, and remote villages of enduring charm. The beauty of scene and the variety of interest make Dorset an attractive and refreshing district for leisurely enjoyment. Right, Jenny's back and cold, and I've got the fire stoked up, so we're going to go and sit in front of the fire in a minute with some festive nibbles and a bit of warm mulled cider. So dig in, Jenny. I'm just going to get the cider started. So here we've got Bath soft cheese. I think this is a goat's cheese in a kind of brie type style. We've got Cranbourne Blue, which is a Dorset blue cheese, a nice brie, and Wensleydale with cranberries. A variety of crackers here. Right. So, Cranbourne Blue, I don't know what this is going to be. This is one I haven't had before, I don't think. Oh, Eva's melt the cheese. Yeah, there'll be a little bit for you. Let's have a look at that. I'm going to have a little taste of that now, actually. So compared to a Stilton, it's drier, more crumbly, similar sort of blue cheese flavour. Quite good. Just going to check on the mulled wine, mulled cider rather. Oh, Eva, be quiet. We'll get you a bit of cheese then.
What cheese should you have?
Well, she can have a bit of this goat cheese, I expect. It's just a cheese, isn't it?
Yeah.
What I'll probably do, actually, I'll just give her a bit of the paste rather than the rind. Not as much as that, so I'll give her a little bit like that. Right, doggo. Okay. Good. So I've got, that's your green tomato chutney.
Oh yeah.
I've got sweet jalapeno relish. This stuff's really good. Such a vibrant colour as well. Is there another teaspoon there? Because I've also got quince jelly. Right, I think cider is very nearly ready. If we just make a space here so I can pour it on camera. Yeah, because I can kind of dunk that in there then like that. Cheers and Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
What do you think?
It's nice, yeah.
Okay, well, we're going to go and retire to the fireplace now. That's the end of the video. Thanks so much for watching, and I'd just like to wish you peace, prosperity, health and happiness, and a very Merry Christmas.